My name is Zara. I'm from Hertfordshire. I'm in my early 30s, and this is my story about how I was sexually abused and groomed as a child. I was 5 years old. That was the first sort of memories I've got, and my mum and my father weren't together. So it was obviously, they were very young when they had me. They were 17. So I was 5, and my mum met this other person, and he, I suppose at the point he was just a man. I didn't know. I was young. I didn't speak. I was a very quiet child. I wouldn't talk to anyone. If you weren't my family, I weren't talking. And he got me to talk. I thought, okay, and he was a nice man. He bought me things and the years went on, and he met somebody, and my father wasn't about. He was in that picture. Unfortunately, he had a drug habit, so there was a lot of violence and things growing up. My mum tried her best for me because she's got disabilities, and it was her and my grandparents that looked after me because she was in that hospital. So she met this other guy, and he was very comforting. He got me out to talk, and it made me feel special as a child. Because my dad wasn't there, so it was this gentleman that was here. It was making me feel good as a child. I felt loved how I should. And the years went on, and it was like Christmas times and birthdays. I was getting all these expensive gifts and things. And it was like, okay, I didn't do anything. And everything was normal. I asked my mum, can I call him Dad? Because I didn't really know my dad that much. I had to see him, but it was difficult. It was years of court and a lot of hassle. And as I got older, he started asking me to go to work with him. I was like, okay. Mum was like, oh, well, it will help you. You can learn different skills. We had horses and that, so I was to...
What age was this, sorry?
This was between like 5 and 10.
Okay.
So I was like, all that time I was going to my schools, and I used to go to the yard with my mum, and on the weekends or school holidays it was like, okay, well, we'll go see Nan and Grandad, and then you can go, it's like, do you want to go work with me? Okay. So I did, and it's just learning different skills and things, and it was sort of the buying and the toys and things, it was constant. I thought, okay, and everyone was like, oh, you got this? I was like, yeah, do you not have this? So it's all those things you wouldn't realise, because growing up I got bullied a lot, so I thought, oh, that's probably why I'm getting bullied, so then he's getting me these things so I don't get bullied. It didn't work. But then when I was in secondary school, which was very hard, I got a phone. He bought me a brand new phone. Back then, I think it was the BlackBerry. So the old BlackBerry with the buttons. And he kept asking me then, he was like, oh, you're okay? How's it doing? I was like, okay. And went to work with him in my first year. So I was about 12. I was about, 12, 13. 12, because I was September, my birthday, yeah. Oh, and I went to work with him, and things were... He kept making these sexual jokes, and I was like, oh, okay. My brain, but at that age, you don't compute things. I had no idea with these sort of things. I thought, oh, it's just a man thing, And it was later on, that day he was talking to me about my mum and things she would do with him. And I was like, okay. I thought, why are you having this conversation with me? I'm a child. And he said to me, I want to show you what I do to your mum. It'll be okay. He said, but you have to keep it between us. I was like, no. I said, no, that's you and mum. That's not me. And he was like, no, I'm going to show you. He said, and he took me, it was an empty building in Bedfordshire. And it was meant to be a cafe. So it was like a flat at the top, and he was redoing that. And it was like stairs and like is it skylight room, you'd call it? And that's when he sexually abused me for the first time. I was crying. I wanted to go home. I wanted my mum. And that was the first time. It didn't happen again for 2 or 3 weeks. And then it happened every day, 2 or 3 times a day for the next 10 years. And I tried to contact the police. My school, my secondary school, had this bungalow, and it was a safe place for children. And I went there, and there was a teacher there, and she was the most amazing woman. And she knew something was up, and I had a friend that was sexually abused, and she was in care. And this teacher got the police. She called them to the school, and they called my mum, and I made a statement. My mum believed me at that point, but then nothing else happened, and I found out that she revoked the statement. And it was years going on, and I was then 15, so 15 years old. I was old enough to understand everything, but I didn't understand what was going on to me. I thought it was normal, because it was all day, every day. So every chance I got during those years, I would go up to my grandparents in Norfolk, because that was my safe space. And my friend come up with me, because it was a sleepover, like I think it was a week, and we had full snails on, and it was like, Nan, could you get these off?
Sorry, can you just stop?
Yeah, no, you're fine.
Go back to the Nan was your safe space.
Yes.
Let's go.
Right, so my nan and granddad's in Norfolk was my safe space. That was my my haven. Nothing was going to happen to me there, and for years it was just peaceful. I didn't have to get up. I didn't have to do these things. And my friend was like, "You need to tell your nan." I was like, "I can't." They're more like my parents than anything, but I know my mum's alive. She's like, "Tell your nan it's okay. They're not going to be angry." And my granddad was always one I couldn't speak to, because he was like the respectful man in my family, and I couldn't speak to him about things. I told my nan, and then she was gobsmacked, and she said, I knew there was something. They always knew there was something with him. They just didn't like him. And and I told her, and she was like, "Right, I'm gonna tell your grandfather." I said, "Okay." And she brought him in, and he was like, "What's the matter?" And I'm bawling my eyes out like I am now.
Right.
And
do you want a minute? Or
no, I'm right. I'm just an emotional person.
That's what it is. You have every right to be, but you're doing great too.
Yeah.
In your own time. Direct the story wherever you want to go.
I don't remember he's a very quiet man, so I don't remember his exact reaction. But when he found out, he was just quiet and still. His anger is very silent. My nan said, "We're going to take you back, and we are going to get rid of him." I thought, oh gosh, okay, Mum.
Sorry.
15.
Get life in case.
Yes, yeah, 15. Yeah. And I was like, oh my goodness, my mum's going to be angry because, I've told them. And we were visiting, I believe, my uncle's daughter has just been born a few weeks before, and they wanted to visit her. And I was like, I don't want to do it with this, And my granddad was trying to do it peacefully, because it's a very special moment with your first child. And my uncle got involved and was like, "What's going on?" I wanted to deal with it, but my granddad brought my mum out, and she looked at me, and he was really angry, which you would understand. She said, "What's going on?" And she thought I was lying, and she, oh. And my granddad said, "Your daughter's not lying. This is what happened. She's told us everything." And he got rid of him later that day. But I didn't find out, I think, it was 2 years later I found out. I was pregnant with my first child when I was 17. And I found out he'd been coming back to the house for 2 years. Because he was paying for everything. And unfortunately, over them years, I had forgotten what happened, because I was so, relieved, and I thought my mum got rid of him completely. and she didn't. And he started getting close to me again because I was pregnant and I was in a very bad relationship at the time. It was a very difficult point for me. And I had my son, and when I was 18, we split up. So I had postnatal depression. That was hard. And I fell pregnant again when I was 19, 2011. And with this one, I had social services involved because my first son had to live with his father because of my depression. And I had a flat from somebody that he worked for. He said, take this flat. It will do you and your son the world of good. It will give you a home. And, you know, I had social services involved, which I later found out was apparently due to my mother. I lived in this flat. I moved in. He said, design it how you want it. The tiles, everything. He said it'll be a beautiful flat because he said she's got nice taste. And somehow, and I don't remember this bit, he moved in. He started abusing me again and started moving in and grooming me, and I don't know how it happened. And it was like that for 2 years. Nobody would help me. I tried all different charities. I had to go to, when my son was born, I had to go to a visitation centre to see him. And I kept that up for 6 months. And then I couldn't do it no more because I knew I weren't getting him back. I couldn't get out. They tried to help me, but no one else would help. And during that time, I fell pregnant with my daughter.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm alright. And I was seeing my daughter at the same time, and I saw her for a week. And I had to say to social services, I have to give these children up for adoption because that's where they're going to be safest. I can't get out. This man followed me. He knew everywhere I went. He had me tracked. He still does to this day. So I had my children adopted for their safety. And that's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. You know, I have my eldest I don't speak to. And that kills me because he doesn't know what happened. But he carried on. And I only managed to get away about, when I was 23, 24 because of a friend of mine. He gave me the courage to get away. And I didn't see him again after that. I managed to hide up in Stoke. And I came back. And I moved to Norfolk and got my life better, you know. And I had 2 more children, beautiful boys. I made mistakes in my life. But then last year, I had court in September because I started the court proceedings when I was 21. I had the court for him. And that was one of the hardest things in my life. And unfortunately, he got found not guilty because he knew a juror and they wouldn't listen to me.
So he took his side because he knew them.
The juror knew him and I don't know how. We saw him walking out the court together, talking, everything. We tried to tell them. And it just went completely out of the way. I know everyone says that you'll be bitter because it didn't go your way. I'm not bitter because of that. I'm bitter because the legal system is getting worse. And there's nothing out there to help these children that are going through this. I've had to live with this for many, many years. And I can't live with it no more. And there's something that's got to be done to help. My whole life was ruined by this man. I lost my children. I had to put them first to make sure they're safe. And he's still walking out there free.
Okay, thanks for telling me your story. I'm like, look, yeah, it's good to take a break. I think, you know,
Yeah.
it's obviously such a in-depth story. Is there anything else you want to sort of talk about or make people aware of?
There's got to be something that's got to be done for this. I had a near miss with one of my children, and luckily I found him the way he was before anything happened. And I found out 2 weeks later by a police officer, this was a childminder's, and her husband was really chatty and everything, but she was quiet. I thought, okay, I thought it's like me. I'm a quiet person normally, and I get a phone call 2 weeks later from the police that her husband has been found making videos with the children. I said to her, has my child been involved? I have every right to know. She said, I can't tell you that. I said, I have every right to know. Luckily, I found out he hadn't, but it was just when he was so quiet. And to know that I've been through that and he nearly did, that petrifies me. And this man got 5 years from these 10 children.
It's not long.
That's not long at all.
Not long enough, really, at all. If you don't mind me asking, I don't want to go into sort of details, but this was going on in your life when you were younger from around sort of for about 15 years?
The abuse the abuse was from 12 until 22, 23. But I'd say the grooming, I never understood all this until I was 24. I didn't understand any of it. But the grooming would have started when I was about 5. And being honest, I was 10 and in the bath, as you are, and he used to come in and wash me. And I had people say to me, that's not normal. He's a man. I don't know. I didn't know anything. And, I'd find out, now, like, everything. My mother was like, oh, well, I did think something was happening because you were making noises while you was asleep, but he wasn't there. And he had security cameras in the house facing the cars to see when my mother would come back and when, And it's like, my best friend, she worked it out. She said 3 times a day sometimes. She goes 7 days a week. The worst bit is, and I don't like to admit this, but it is true, and it came up in the court, he paid me to keep my silence. £5-10 a time. He used to buy these shoes and all sorts of things, and it's got to stop. There's got to be something to stop children.
Look, it seems like so many cases that when I interview people on these stories, it seems like they're all very similar in the way of there was no support, I was ignored. And that is like, it's still, I don't think the services, social services, I don't think things are even the courts and the laws are any better today from what I can make out. I mentioned that I was talking with Chris Tuck, who's very educated in this area, and she's done quite a lot, and she's trying to do a lot to change the laws and change how things are happening. Yeah. Is there anything you want to say to people out there that are maybe struggling? Like, how do you you can't deal with that, can you? Like, I wouldn't know how to deal with that trauma. There's not really a way of dealing with it. I know you mentioned that people have said, like, people close to you have said, you just got to try and forget it and move on, which is absolutely ridiculous because you can't do that. That's stupid. Well,
the closest people that should be in your life, and they say to you, forget about it and carry on. That's what I've had to do. No. It needs to just don't be scared anymore. I was petrified of this man. I would see him in my hometown and I would panic. I would flinch. I would cry. I would freak. And after the court, I stood there and I looked him dead in that face and he was looking to the floor. And you tell me that's not a guilty man? Don't ever be scared. Don't ever be scared. Find someone you can trust. I found my grandparents, my nan. Anyone you can trust, a friend, they will get you the help. Just don't stop.
Yeah, just speak.
Yeah, just keep going.
Don't bottle it all up.
No, don't do what I did, because that was a mistake. I bottled it up for 5-6 years before I spoke out, and that was the worst time of my life.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry you've gone through such a horrible bloody time. No one should have to go through that, like I've said in previous videos. No. I'm just gonna check the camera quickly just to make sure it's actually recording okay. You're absolutely fine. Obviously, thank you so much for coming to see me today. I'm really grateful. Just one last question. Do you have a relationship with your mum now? Because obviously what happened was obviously absolutely horrific with you say she knew what was going on, and that's usually the case from my experience when I've interviewed people on this subject. Both parents, or one parent, will know it's going on, but they won't say anything.
Yeah. My father and his missus thought something was going on, but they wouldn't pressure me because they thought I'd go to them. I didn't. My mother always says she knew something, but she didn't know what. And I tried to tell her, and I got it brushed off because she had him buying her cars, horses, paying the house. It was money. There was a lot of money he earned. And to me, it was a case of years later, I find out he's still in contact with her and he's still taking money. And I can't do it no more. I don't care if you're my parent or my brother or my sister. I'm not going to keep in contact with you. You know, I will not. If you're not going to reach out to me and help me, I can't.
Yeah.
I'd rather have people who are going to help me in life, not just use me.
Well, look, you're going to get, I can't, you're extremely brave for sharing your story with me and everyone that's going to be seeing this video. So thank you so much. You're going to get a lot of love online because you're obviously a really nice person, kind person, and you've got a lovely partner now.
Amazing.
Amazing husband.
I don't think I'd be here without it.
Yeah, no, he's been great. And yeah, look, is there anything else you want to say before we wrap up this interview? You're very welcome. Shake your hand. I got teary hand now, haven't I? You're all good. You're all good. Thank you so much. No, it's okay. It's fine. Look, it's okay. We all cry. I just about held my tears off behind the camera.
Yeah. Well, it's.
Okay, you all right? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fine. Thank
Okay,
you.
we'll wrap up there. You're very welcome.